The ETA II was the Republic's answer to escalating Separatist fighter technology during the final years of the Clone Wars. Introduced in 20 BBY and developed by Quad Systems Engineering, it was a compact, high-performance starfighter designed exclusively for Jedi pilots, those capable of handling extreme speed and minimal survivability. At just 5.47 meters in length, the ETA II sacrificed almost every luxury for pure maneuverability. It had no internal hyperdrive, no deflector shields, and zero redundancy systems. Instead, it relied on an external hyperspace ring for long-distance travel and an astromech droid for navigation, diagnostics, and real-time battlefield calculations. What it did have were twin Ciliar series Ion engines capable of producing 5,200 Gs of acceleration, making it one of the fastest atmospheric and space fighters of its time. Its folding S-foils doubled as radiator panels, dissipating engine heat during high-output thrust. But when opened, they also left the ship's core lightly armored, exposing the fragile cockpit and forward systems to enemy fire. Standard weaponry included 2 laser cannons and 2 ion cannons mounted along the wing edges. Some units, especially those piloted by Anakin Skywalker, were field modified to carry underwing concussion missiles, though this was rare. Anakin's personal ETA IIs were heavily customized. His first was painted bright yellow, a nod to his pod racing days. Later, he piloted a green and white variant during the mission to Mustafar, his final operation as a Jedi Knight. In all configurations, his trusted droid R2-D2 handled co-piloting and maintenance from the dorsal astromech socket. Unlike clone-piloted interceptors, which often remove droid ports entirely, Anakin's units were always tuned to integrate with his aggressive, reflex-driven flight style. The ETA II saw action in several major Clone Wars battles. It was used during the Battle of Cabrin Nemoida, the rescue of Chancellor Palpatine above Coruscant, and the space assault on the Invisible Hand. But the ETA II wasn't just a Republic weapon. It was also the first ship flown by Darth Vader, shortly after his fall to the dark side in 19 BBY. Canon records show him piloting it during the extermination of the Separatist Council on Mustafar. Legends expand on this, describing a custom black ETA II paired with the astromech R4K5, which Vader used for early Jedi Purge missions and internal patrols above Coruscant. Despite its performance, the ETA II was gradually phased out as the Empire transitioned to cheaper, expandable fighters. However, it directly influenced the design of the early TIE series, sharing the same radiator wings, minimalist cockpit, and lack of shielding. Its DNA can be seen in everything from the standard tie-in to the more advanced TIE Interceptor and Vader's own TIE Advanced X1. For Anakin Skywalker, the ETA II marked the transition between Jedi and Sith, and for the galaxy, it represented the Republic's final evolution of elite starfighter combat, a sleek, agile blade forged for the most dangerous pilots in the stars. The TIE Advanced X1 was more than just a starfighter. It was a prototype of power, exclusivity, and fear engineered specifically for Darth Vader. Developed by Sinar Fleet Systems in 0 BBY, the X1 represented a fundamental deviation from the Empire's military doctrine. While standard TIEs were disposable swarms of cannon fodder, this fighter was tailored for one man, the Dark Lord of the Sith. At 9.2 meters in length, the X1 featured a highly modified cylindrical advanced ion drive powered by twin PS4 engines optimized for high G performance. Its forward-swept bent wings were more than aesthetic. They improved heat dispersion and reduced its radar profile during head-on engagements. The hull was constructed from reinforced titanium durasteel alloy, offering far more durability than the standard tie-in. Armament included twin LS 9.3 laser cannons mounted beneath the cockpit, fed by a dedicated energy loop designed for sustained fire. Unlike the shieldless standard TIEs, the X1 featured a military-grade deflector shield system, powered by dual-output reactors. It also had an integrated Class 4 hyperdrive, making it one of the only starfighters in the Imperial arsenal capable of long-range independent operation. Internally, the cockpit was fully pressurized and custom-built to accommodate Vader's light support armor. His grav chair was mounted on shock-absorbing pylons to preserve stability during acceleration. Most notably, the targeting system was directly synced with cybernetic neural relays, allowing for faster response time and target acquisition. The X1 made its operational debut during the Battle of Yavin 0 BBY. During the assault, Vader personally led a squadron of elite pilots into the Death Star Trench, using the X1's enhanced speed and maneuverability to eliminate multiple rebel starfighters. However, the mission failed when the Death Star was destroyed. Vader's X1 is clipped by an out-of-control TIE, sending him into a spin. Despite the damage, he stabilized the ship using manual thrusters and drifted for hours before being recovered by an Imperial patrol. Following the battle, the TIE Advanced X1 remained part of Vader's private hangar, but was rarely deployed in open combat. It was never mass-produced, both due to its enormous cost and internal opposition from the Imperial command, who feared concentrating too many resources on one individual. Nevertheless, its design directly influenced the development of later high-performance TIE variants, including the TIE Interceptor, TIE Defender, and experimental TIE Phantom. While the ship itself was retired shortly after 0 ABY, its legacy endured. The X-1 wasn't just a starfighter, it was a symbol, a weapon built for the most feared pilot in the galaxy, flown into legend during the final hours of the Death Star's reign. Before Star Destroyers and TIEs came to define the Empire's reach, the New Class Attack Shuttle was one of the most durable and reliable transports of the Clone Wars era, and it would remain in service well into the early years of the Galactic Empire. Developed by Cygnus Spaceworks, the New Class was designed as an evolutionary replacement for the Republic's earlier LAT gunships, measuring approximately 18.9 meters in length. The shuttle featured a heavy wedge-shaped fuselage with dual folding wings for landing stability and atmospheric maneuvering. It was equipped with a Class 1 hyperdrive, giving it full hyperspace capability without support ships, a rare trait for a troop transport of its size. Its defensive systems included dual laser cannons mounted at the front and rear, as well as reinforced armor plating capable of absorbing sustained blaster fire during hot landings. Internally, the new class carry up to 30 clone troopers or cargo equivalents, along with pilot and co-pilot stations, an onboard navic computer, and modular racks for weapons and mission equipment. During Clone Wars, New Class shuttles were used for everything, from special operations insertions to prisoner extractions. They were notably present during missions to Ryloth, Felucia, and Umbara, but even after the Jedi Purge, many units remained active, repainted, rebranded, and reassigned to Imperial service. Shortly after his transformation into Darth Vader, the Dark Lord utilized a New Class shuttle for several early Imperial missions. In both Legends and canon materials, Vader is seen deploying from New Class craft when direct troop deployment or planetary landings are required. The ship's rugged frame and atmospheric versatility made it ideal for solo operations or high-risk deployments where heavier ships like Star Destroyers would draw too much attention. The shuttle's folding S-foils allowed it to descend vertically like a dropship, landing in confined or rugged terrain. Its large central boarding ramp made it perfect for quick offloads, including stormtrooper detachments, droids, or even Sith personnel like Vader himself. It's likely this was the type of craft assigned to him during early Jedi Purge operations and planetary investigations across the Outer Rim. In the Clone Wars animated series and expanded lore, some New Class shuttles were retrofitted with advanced sensor suites, prisoner holding cells, or internal back-to-base. Though not as iconic as the Lambda-class shuttle that came after it, the New Class was trusted, tested, and enduring, staying operation well into the Imperial era, particularly in outpost sectors and transitional fleet deployments. Its connection to Darth Vader is both symbolic and functional. A workhorse craft built in the Republic, repurposed by the Empire, just as Vader himself was reshaped from Jedi to Sith. Quiet, reliable, and brutally efficient, the New Class Attack Shuttle served as one of the first vessels to carry the Dark Lord into war, not just against the galaxy, but against the remnants of his own past. If the TIE Fighter was the face of Imperial enforcement, the Lambda T-4A shuttle was the shadow moving behind, quiet, precise, and always carrying someone important. By the height of the Galactic Empire, it became the signature transport of Imperial officers, intelligence operatives, and Sith Lords alike. One of the most iconic passengers? Darth Vader himself. Produced by Cyanarm Fleet Systems in partnership with Cygnus Spaceworks, the Lambda T-4A entered service shortly after the Republic transitioned into the Empire, around 18 BBY. Its profile was unmistakable, a tri-winged configuration with a fixed dorsal fin and two folding lateral wings used for both stabilization and atmospheric descent. The craft measured 20 meters in length with a durable Durasteel hull and shielded reactor core optimized for independent long-range missions. Where most TIE crafts sacrifice survivability for mass production, the Lambda was built for VIP-class transit and tactical flexibility. It featured a Class 1 hyperdrive, strong reflector shields, and quad laser cannons, 2 mounted forward, 2 rear. It could hold up to 20 passengers, along with 80 metric tons of cargo, and it was typically piloted by a 2-person crew with an optional third for navigation or weapons control. Darth Vader used the Lambda shuttle frequently during his galactic operations, particularly when deploying from Star Destroyers like the Devastator or arriving unannounced at Imperial installations. While he preferred more tactical or custom-built vessels during missions, the Lambda was often used for public arrivals, diplomacy by intimidation, and strategic oversight. One of its most famous appearances occurred during the events of 4 BBY to 0 BBY, when Vader used the Lambda shuttle to travel between military bases and respond to insubordination among Moffs and Admirals. Unlike his starfighters, which served combat roles, the Lambda shuttle represented common presence the moment its shadow fell over a landing platform. Personnel knew someone high-ranking had arrived. And when it was Vader, that often meant someone was about to be executed. The Lambda class also saw use by the Emperor himself, with Vader occasionally accompanying him aboard the shuttle for joint appearances. In fact, the shuttle's reliability and shield integrity were part of why the design was later retained by the Imperial remnant after the Battle of Endor. Though the Empire fielded several shuttle types such as the Sentinel and Theta class, the Lambda T-4A remained the symbol of elite authority. For Darth Vader, it was less a weapon and more a stage. Its quiet hum, descending wings, and distinct silhouette signaled the arrival of the Empire's most feared enforcer, not in combat, but in judgment. The J-Type 327 Nubian Royal Starship was a diplomatic vessel constructed by the Thebe Palace Space Vessel Engineering Corps of Naboo. Designed as both a functional long-range craft and a symbol of Naboo's royal prestige, the ship was used primarily by Queen Amidala and her entourage during high-level planetary missions. It first appeared in galactic history in 32 BBY during the events surrounding the Trade Federation's blockade of Naboo. Crafted with a highly polished chromium hull and a smooth sculpted fuselage, the J-Type 327 was built to be unarmed, unassuming, and beautiful. Its profile was sleek and minimalist. A tapered forward hull, twin-engine nacelles, and a narrow rear fuselage. The ship's chromium finish was reserved for Naboo's monarchy and served no defensive purpose. Instead, it was a political statement. Luxury, transparency, and peace. The vessel measured roughly 76 meters in length, and though lightly equipped, it housed a Class 1 hyperdrive, a full royal crew, and a number of specialized compartments for diplomatic functions, including a throne room, security quarters, and escape pods. It required a small droid team, typically R-series astromechs, to perform mid-flight repairs and hyperdrive maintenance. One of those droids was R2-D2, who famously helped save the ship during its escape from Naboo by repairing its damaged shield generator in flight. For Anakin Skywalker, the J-Type 327 was more than a ship. It was his first step off Tatooine. At the age of 9, he boarded it as a slave and disembarked as a free child in Coruscant. It transported him to his Jedi trials, to Queen Amidala's homeworld, and indirectly into the heart of galactic conflict. Though Anakin never piloted the J-Type himself, it remained a symbol of his turning point, the day his journey to becoming a Jedi began. The ship was later destroyed during the Battle of Naboo, replaced by newer Nubian models, such as the J-Type diplomatic barge and H-Type Nubian yacht. But the 327 remained iconic. Its design language would later influence royal cruisers, Naboo starfighters, and even luxury ships produced by the core worlds. For Vader, the J-Type 327 belonged to a world long gone, a world of ideals, diplomacy, and innocence. He would go on to command dreadnoughts and flagships, but this unarmed royal ship, its mirrored hull catching the suns of Tatooine, was the first craft that ever carried him among the stars. It didn't fire a single shot, but it launched the most dangerous pilot in galactic history. The Venator-class Star Destroyer. Commissioned by the Galactic Republic and produced by Quad Drive Yards, the Venator class first entered service in 22 BBY at the outbreak of the Clone Wars. It was designed as a hybrid warship, part battleship, part carrier, part mobile Jedi command post. At over 1,137 meters in length, it was roughly half the size of an Imperial-class Star Destroyer, but it carried nearly as much punch and far greater tactical flexibility. What made the Venator distinct wasn't just its firepower, it was its versatility. Armed with 8 heavy turbo laser turrets, 52-point defense laser cannons, 4 proton torpedo launchers, and 6 tractor beam projectors, the ship could engage capital ships, swarm starfighters, and provide planetary bombardment support. But perhaps its most critical feature was the central flight deck, a dual-level hangar system that could launch hundreds of starfighters, shuttles, and gunships within seconds. This massive hangar bay split down the centerline of the ship's dorsal hull, protected by sliding armor plates. When opened, it revealed a cavernous launch chamber used to deploy V-19 Torrents, ARC-170s, V-Wings, LAT gunships, and elite Jedi starfighters like Anakin's Eta II. As general of the 501st Legion, Anakin Skywalker commanded his own Venator-class destroyer, most notably the Resolute, a heavily modified flagship assigned to critical Outer Rim campaigns. From the bridge of the Resolute, Skywalker led operations on Christophsis, Death, Umbara, and countless others. The ship was fitted with enhanced communication arrays, reinforced shielding, and even specialized command chambers adapted for Jedi use. Canon and Legends both emphasize that Anakin operated differently from other generals. He often flew missions personally, left the bridge unattended, or ordered aggressive tactics without Senate approval. As a result, his Venator was frequently at the front line and suffered more damage than standard protocol allowed. But under Skywalker's command, it also completed more successful missions than any other Jedi-led vessel in the fleet. The Venator class was also deeply symbolic. It represented the Jedi's uneasy role as military leaders, a stark contrast to their original purpose as peacekeepers. The bridge itself was split into dual towers, one for ship operations, the other for Jedi command. This architectural divide echoed the ideological divide growing within the Republic and within Anakin himself. After Order 66 and 19 BBY, most Venator-class ships were absorbed into the newly formed Imperial Navy. Their Jedi chambers were sealed, their markings removed, and the roles redefined. Some continued to serve for years, others were mothballed or scraped. But for Darth Vader, the Venator remained a relic of a former life, one he had buried beneath armor, code cylinders, and silence. The ship that had once launched Anakin Skywalker into battle now belonged to the empire he helped create. When most people think of Darth Vader, they picture the mask, the breathing, the crimson lightsaber, and a massive triangular shadow stretching across the stars. That shadow had a name, the Devastator. The Devastator was an Imperial I-class Star Destroyer, a 1,600-meter-long dagger of steel and firepower built by Quat drive yards and launched into service shortly after the formation of the Galactic Empire in 19 BBY. Though several such destroyers were commissioned during that period, the Devastator stood out because it would become the personal command vessel of Darth Vader. Equipped with turbo laser batteries, ion cannons, and tractor beam projectors, the Devastator could engage and overwhelm virtually any capital ship in its path. It carried a full complement of TIE fighters, stormtroopers, AT-AT walkers, and assault shuttles. With a crew of over 37,000 personnel and accommodations for 9,700 stormtroopers, it was a mobile fortress and a constant reminder of Imperial authority. Darth Vader assumed command of the Devastator sometime before 0 BBY, and he became the center of his search for the stolen Death Star plans. In both canon and legends, the Devastator played a critical role in tracking down the Tantive 4, Princess Leia Organa's consular ship, over the desert world of Tatooine. It was the Devastator that emerged from hyperspace and captured the Tantive 4, an event that marked the very beginning of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. The image of its triangular hull eclipsing Leia's ship remains one of the most enduring visual metaphors of the Galactic Empire's power and oppression. Internally, the Devastator was modified to meet Vader's personal needs. Legends sources describe a sealed meditation chamber where Vader could remove his helmet in isolation. It also featured a dedicated operations suite for intelligence briefings, a specialized TIE hangar bay for his personal starfighter, and an interrogation block used frequently in his missions against the Rebel Alliance. From the bridge of the Devastator, Vader orchestrated search and destroy missions, sector sweeps, and diplomatic suppression across the Outer Rim and Mid-Rim territories. The ship was a flying hammer of compliance. If it appeared in your system, resistance was already too late. In the years following the Death Star's destruction, the Devastator remained active under Vader's command. In Legends continuity, it was present during the early skirmishes of the Galactic Civil War and helped coordinate the Empire's retaliation campaigns. Its final status remains uncertain, though it was likely reassigned or decommissioned following Vader's relocation to other vessels and battle groups. But in Legacy, no other ship bears the weight of Vader's presence quite like the Devastator. It didn't just chase rebels, it chased hope itself. The Executor-class Superstar Destroyer was the most powerful capital ship class in the Galactic Empire's arsenal. A dreadnought so large, it blurred the line between ship and space station, measuring an estimated 19,000 meters in length, or nearly 12 miles. The Executor was the personal flagship of Darth Vader during the later stages of the Galactic Civil War. Commissioned around 3 BBY, the Executor was built in secret by Quat drive yards following Emperor Palpatine's approval of the Tarkin Doctrine, a strategy that prioritized fear over numbers. The idea was simple: one ship so enormous, so invincible, that its very presence would keep entire systems in line. Armed with an estimated 5,000 turbo laser batteries, ion cannons, and tractor beam projectors, the Executor class was designed to outgun any ship in the galaxy, including Mon Calamari capital ships, rebel cruisers, and even planetary defense stations. It featured multiple overlapping deflector shield generators, a Class 1 hyperdrive, and an internal support system capable of hosting entire battle groups. Its hangars held over 144 TIE fighters, multiple shuttles, bombers, AT-AT transports, dropships, and planetary assault vehicles. It could deploy 38,000 stormtroopers and carried a full crew of over 280,000 personnel, including pilots, engineers, officers, gunners, droid maintenance teams, and security forces. When Darth Vader took command of the Executor, often referred to simply as Vader's Superstar Destroyer, it became the centerpiece of Death Squadron, a fleet of Imperial-class destroyers and support ships dedicated to hunting down the Rebel Alliance. The Executor first appeared publicly in 3 ABY during the Empire's assault on Hoth. While the Death Star had been destroyed at Yavin, the Executor now replaced it as the face of Imperial terror. Its approach sent Rebel commanders into immediate evacuation mode. Its sheer scale allowed Vader to coordinate massive fleet actions, conduct orbital bombardments, and maintain real-time communications with the Emperor himself. Legends material expands even further. Vader's private chambers aboard the Executor were located deep in the core structure of the ship. They included a meditation sphere, tactical command centers, and restricted access corridors staffed only by elite crew members and Royal Guard detachments. The vessel also housed TIE advanced variants, an interrogation wing, and even dark side shrines established during Vader's more personal pursuits into Sith lore. Despite its invincible design, the Executor's fall came during the Battle of Endor in 4 ABY. During the climactic space battle, a Rebel A-Wing pilot, Arvel Krynide, crashed his damaged fighter into the Executor's bridge tower after its shields were weakened. With command lost, the ship veered out of control and collided with the surface of the second Death Star, vaporizing on impact. Its destruction was a critical blow, not just tactically, but psychologically. The invincible symbol of Imperial domination was gone, and with it, the myth of Vader's unstoppable reach began to unravel. Yet even in death, the Executor left a mark. It became the template for other superstar destroyers across the galaxy. Its silhouette haunted star charts. Its legend endured. Of course, we can't forget the most iconic weapon in Star Wars history. Not a fighter, not a cruiser, not even a fleet, but a moon-sized machine with a single purpose: fear. The Death Star wasn't a battleship. It was a message. A message built in steel and powered by silence. And when Darth Vader walked its halls, that message became personal. The original concept for the Death Star was born in 19 BBY, during the final days of the Clone Wars. As the Republic transitioned into the Empire, secret designs taken from Geonosian engineers were delivered to Grand Moff Tarkin, with construction beginning quietly above the planet Geonosis. For years, the project remained in the shadows. It passed hands, changed sectors, and consumed more resources than any military undertaking in galactic history. By the time it neared completion in 0 BBY, the galaxy still believed it was a myth. But it wasn't. The finished station stretched 160 kilometers in diameter, a perfect sphere of metal wrapped around a single nightmare. A super laser powerful enough to destroy an entire planet. At its course had a hypermatter reactor pulsing with enough energy to rival a small star. The beam itself was created through a focusing array of 8 tributary lasers, all channeling into a central dish capable of wiping out a planet from orbit. This wasn't just a weapon, it was a fortress. The Death Star housed over 1.7 million Imperial personnel, including 27,000 stormtroopers and legions of officers, gunners, pilots, and engineers. It had its own economy, its own command chain, and enough firepower to enforce the will of the Empire across the Outer Rim without ever touching down. Its internal structure was divided into 84 distinct levels, with thousands of corridors, control stations, armories, war rooms, detention blocks, and hangars large enough to hold over 700 TIE fighters. It had training grounds, food storage, vehicle bays, stormtrooper barracks, and enough turbo lifts to keep a small city moving at all hours of the day. Entire legions could deploy from its staging decks: AT-ATs, AT-STs, juggernauts, and heavy shuttles, all ready to launch from orbit at a moment's notice. At the top of the northern hemisphere was the command tower, housing the central bridge, communications array, and war room. This is where Grand Moff Tarkin oversaw day-to-day operations, but in the shadows behind him was Darth Vader, the Emperor's enforcer, and the only being aboard who outranked fear itself. Vader didn't just linger, he hunted. He led security sweeps, he personally interrogated prisoners, and he did what no one else aboard dared to do. He questioned the station's overconfidence. He was there when Leia Organa was brought into custody, there when the Millennium Falcon was captured and deliberately released. He was there when Obi-Wan Kenobi returned, quiet, older, and ready to die. Their final duel wasn't just a rematch, it was closure. Vader struck down his old master in the very corridors of the Death Star, sealing the past in red light and silence. And then came the demonstration. In its first act of war, the Death Star destroyed Alderaan, a peaceful, unarmed planet. No warning, no hesitation. The entire world, its people, history, and culture, erased in a single shot. Billions dead, and not a single Imperial ship fired a blaster. That was the power of the station, and that was only the beginning. Its next target was Yavin 4, home to the hidden rebel base. As the station moved into position, its super laser began charging. The countdown had begun. The Empire was seconds away from a total victory. And then, a single shot changed everything. A young pilot named Luke Skywalker, Anakin's son, though no one yet knew it, flew an X-Wing through the trenches of the Death Star's hull. Under covering fire, he launched 2 proton torpedoes into a small exhaust port. That port led directly to the reactor core. It was a flaw buried deep in the design. A flaw left intentionally by an engineer named Galen Erso, who saw what his creation would become and chose rebellion. The torpedoes hit, the reactor destabilized, and the Death Star exploded, taking over 1 million souls with it in an instant. It had taken 2 decades to build, it lasted just a few weeks. The Death Star was the Empire's monument to fear, but its destruction became a symbol of something else: hope.